Squeaky chair. It's been about a week since I've done a video. Actually, I've done a few, but they haven't really been worth publishing. They're more or less me dealing with day-to-day issues. I didn't find it appropriate to put them out. I'm going to tell you today that I've been watching a lot of documentaries and reading a lot of material about Melu thought control and some of Steve Hassan's material, and it sort of brings me back to an earlier point where I had watched a Heaven's Gate video of Marshall Applewhite explaining, actually the video was Last Chance to Evacuate Earth Before It Is Recycled. And if you were ever in a cult or in Scientology, and you're afraid to watch videos or read material about Scientology, then you don't really have to. What you can do is watch other cult videos and documentaries, because part of my waking up from all of this was watching Marshall Applewhite's video from Heaven's Gate. The name of the video again is, and I may link it in the channel below, is Last Chance to Evacuate Earth Before It Is Recycled. And I apologize for the sirens if you hear those. When I first watched it, it was probably 18 months ago, something like that. And as I was watching it, what he was saying didn't really sound crazy to me. Because in Scientology, the belief of reincarnation is pretty much universal in the church, and that this is not our only life. So when Marshall Applewhite is referring to himself or his body as a flesh vehicle, that was really no foreign concept to me. And when he started talking about space aliens and other heavenly bodies, it wasn't that much of a surprise for me. I never read the OT3 materials, but you don't have to know that in Scientology there's space opera, because LRH will mention it in his lectures, and he'll mention past lives, he'll mention, of course, then there's all his science fiction books. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking genius to put two and two together and realize that if we believe in past lives, and LRH has said that a lot of his writing comes from his track or the tracks of others, I mean, come on, it's pretty obvious. But when you are approached as a staff member or public about, do you really believe in that Xenu shit? Since you're not an OT3, it's not something that you can even acknowledge, really. And of course, there's sometimes you will, I was told that the material, while there was no confirmation as to what the material on OT3 was. You know that it's the wall of fire, and that if and that it's a very dangerous level to do, because LRH talks about how sick he got and how he almost didn't make it through, and hence the name Wall of Fire, because he was convinced that that this could kill a person if not handled properly with the correct processes and whatnot. So when you're approached with that kind of information, it's the same policy that the church uses to this day, attack the source and ignore and don't acknowledge the information. Where did you read that? Oh, you believe everything you read online? Or, oh, you believe everything you read in a book? Not everything you read is true. And you just sort of try to plant doubt in the person's mind that, because it's true, not everything you read is true. So, I was, in the last couple of days, I watched several documentaries on Jonestown, on the Branch Davidians, on Heaven's Gate, and I watched the Heaven's Gate exit member videos, which is basically a recommendation from Steve Hassan. And these people really believed what they were doing, and they weren't really hurting anybody. Most of these people, when I watch them talk, I look at these people and I don't see idiots. I don't see people who are dumb. I see people who have a lot of love and compassion for one another. And I'm sure that at some point in their life they had aspirations, goals, and dreams and things they wanted to do with their life. And that's what makes it so tragic is, I look at their, you're watching about, you watch the videos of them telling, oh, we're glad. And these people are essentially about to, kill themselves. And they really are excited about it. They're happy about it. And they're telling the camera, look, this is not my body. This is just a flesh vehicle. I'm going to be returning to where I am supposed to be. The kingdom level above human. And one of the members that left before all this happened, Leo D'Angelo, I believe is his name, he still feels that he is here for a task, which is one of the things that it's one of the indoctrination procedures that Applewhite come up with. And Marshall Applewhite was, I don't know what exactly his deal was, but it's apparent that he was a very mentally ill person. And the things that you do to sort of come to terms with your mental illness can be pretty wild and I don't know, they can be destructive. It's just amazing that, you look at the photos and the footage that comes from the Heaven's Gate mass suicide is from the member that didn't go through with it. And he wanted to show the world, that it wasn't, there was no coercion. These people did this willingly. And there was a very ceremonious air about it. There's these purple cloths placed over them in the same fashion in every person. They had their suit with the patch that says away team, Heaven's Gate away team, and it's just a tragedy, you know. But the scary thing is that when I watched this for the first time a couple, you know, like almost 2 years ago now, and I realized that a lot of the thinking and the beliefs were very similar to what I well, now I see, you know, it's like the identity that I adopted as becoming a Scientologist, Marcus Sawyer, the Scientologist, was very much in line with that, because in Scientology you go OT. You know, it's all of these cults have different ways of going about the same thing. And while their practices may be slightly different, the core structure and routine and the control over the environment, the isolation from others, whether it is physical isolation or mental isolation, the idea that if you leave, your salvation is at stake, and you know, really just the control exerted from the group, and it's a group enforced control, you know. Everyone is sort of one body, if that makes any sense. And if one piece of the puzzle if one person begins to try to stray, then it's the responsibility of the group to take care of that person and to make sure that they stay on the right track. And so the methods of coercion and influence are very strong, in that, you know, you develop strong bonds and relationships with these people because you're developing this belief system that is very strong, and you believe in it very much. So it becomes easy to tug at the strings, you know. I mean, you're kind of like a puppet. You relinquish control to the group. And the same goes with Jonestown. And that was even a much more devastating, just horrific tragedy. And to this day, you know, the people that survived it, there weren't many, they still believe that it was a utopian type place, that there was a chance. And, you know, they're listening to Jim Jones rant on this PA system as he progressively loses his mind, you know. And I still feel that a lot of cult leaders have mental illness, you know. Another common theme is that, you know, no one can represent the cult fairly. You know, the media, the government, and there's a high level of paranoia. Another common theme is the apocalyptic outlook and viewpoint, as to, you know, we're the only ones that have true salvation, and you know, there's just a lot of and I'm still learning this stuff. There are a lot of common themes, and it all relates to mind control. It all relates to conditioning, controlling a person's environment, and controlling their time. You know, every single one of these groups, if you ask about a person's day-to-day life, I mean, you know, their day starts early and ends very late. Sleep deprivation is a big part of it. At a certain point, you start to just do as you're told. You continue with the schedule, you continue with whatever tasks that you have, and you're essentially a cog in the machine. And speaking negatively about your experience causes you a lot of harm, because it's not ever the beliefs that are the issue in the entire group. That's what everyone's told, because they know that if they disagree or if they have a problem, then they're going to be in the hot seat, whatever that is. The abuses will vary from cult to cult, but the effect is the same. So I guess I'll leave off there, but I do want to read you. I apologize if this is just horribly offensive for me to read something that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, but I'm starting to be able to do this again because I'm feeling detached enough from the philosophy so that I can look at this and not feel like I am brainwashing myself anymore. And the reference I want to read is in the Hard Cell Pack, and this was a book that I referred to all the time in my time on staff, because I really was a true believer, and it was ingrained very deeply in me, because my life before Scientology was totally unmanageable, and I was gonna end up dead or killing myself very shortly after, if I hadn't found a solution to what my problem was. And so, to the degree that I guess to the degree of desperation and help that you really need when you get into an organization, a cult organization like this, it can take roots very deeply in yourself. And I think that is why it can take so long for people. It's taken me a long time. I look at people like Chris Shelton, who was in for so long, and it just sort of, it was a snap. And for me, it's been a long time, but a series of small, sometimes very small snaps. And then eventually a big snap. And this past snap was pretty huge. So the reference I'm looking for is, what is it? Limitations of Homo Novis, page 33. And this really goes to, along with, this was one of the deeply held beliefs. And it has to do with, it's a very apocalyptic reference. It is a very inclusive or exclusive type of thinking. And this reference really kind of, this is the idea and the sort of the rooted concepts that I am trying to reach into myself and just yank out, because it's deep. It's deep for me. And this sort of goes along with all the other, especially Heaven's Gate. There is a whole lot of similarities in Heaven's Gate and Scientology's concept of being OT. So, this comes from the Journal of Scientology, issue 17G, 1953, June, published by the Hubbard Association of Scientologists in Philadelphia. The title is Limitations of Homo Novus, and the foreword says, L. Ron Hubbard pulled no punches when he wrote these words. First published early in 1952, the importance of theta clearing could not be more clearly and vigorously described. Right. So, here it is, Limitations of Homo Novus, which in itself is another concept that you are above, just like every other cult out there. They're a cut above. They're more aware. They're more spiritually attuned. They're the only ones that have true salvation. Limitations of Homo Novus. The theta being is the principal target of the auditor. The preclear is the theta being. A Homo Novus is limited in his self-determinism by all the economic and social restrictions of an aberrated society. He is not free of the need for food, clothing, or shelter. He dies when you get him too cold. He perishes when the oxygen content drops too low. He is living in a tolerance band, which keeps him cramped to the face of one second-rate planet in a 10th-rate system. Pray to all the ill that blows. Pray to all the ill will that blows. Is this being free or self-determined? Maybe he is good enough to overlord his fellows into a security for himself. Never before possible. But that is his only real route towards security. He must fight and command for his 3 squares. He must use police protection in order to keep himself free of bullet holes and bumper marks. Compared to a Homo sapiens, Homo Novus is very high and godlike. Compared to a truly self-determined being, Homo Novus is an ant ready to die under anybody's misstep. This universe is a tough universe. It is a terrible and deadly universe. Only the strong survive it. Only the ruthless can own it. Given one weak spot, a being cannot long endure, for this universe will search it out and enlarge it and probe it until that weak spot is a festering wound so large that the being is engulfed by his own sores. Fighting this battle for survival, and fight it he must, a being in the messed universe cannot seem to afford decency or charity or ethics. He cannot afford any weakness, any mercy. The moment he does, he is lost, for he is surrounded by chilled, coarse rock and molten energy which, no matter the state of aberration of his social surroundings, will engulf him in the instant that he ceases to obey the very laws of Mest. Mest is matter, energy, space, and time. This is a universe of force. It is not a universe of reason. Brutal, unthinking, without decency or mercy. Mest force awaits with punishment any being with any weakness. The possession of a Mest body is a liability, for through that body the being can be given pain, can be regimented by the routine demands of eating and care from harm until at the very, very highest he can be but a puppet dancing to the spin of some unthinking planet under the strong glare of a remote and careless sun. Under these conditions, a being burdened with care and liability of a body, made uncertain by an unknowingness, bows to strange and non-existent gods, resorts to terrible makeshifts in lieu of justice, cringes before the mightier bomb, or the sharper blade. You have examined an engram. A standard engram is simply the collision of the body with the meshed universe. For those of you that don't know what an engram is, you need to look it up somewhere else, because this is a reference that is really for the hardcore Scientologists. To put it simply, an engram is the cause of all of your troubles and upsets in life. It's a part of your mind that is subconscious, that controls your everyday reactive thought, meaning all of the negative emotions and actions that you commit knowingly or unknowingly. A standard engram is simply the collision of the body with the meshed universe, with sufficient impact to produce the confusion of attention known as unconsciousness. Should you care to make a test, just run care of the body as a total therapy, which is a process that you can run. A Scientological process. You will discover that by running out the postulates of a PC about his body and its care, and his injunctions and insistences to others that they care for their bodies, you can produce soaring changes in tone, attitude, emotion, behavior. An entire book can be written concerning this therapy. An entire book has been written about it, the first book in Dianetics. This therapy could be styled the efforts of a Theta being to reconcile the frailty of a meshed body with the ethics of a Theta being. They do not reconcile these two. Schopenhauer, Zeno, and names, not Zeno, and names without number in philosophy have been trying to make this reconciliation for eons. One says, defeat it all and die, for only by dying can you defeat it. Another says, you can't win, therefore the only victory is in refusing to try to win. Christianity, if you really think about that, you can't win, therefore the only victory is in refusing to try to win. Why would he use that choice of words here? Christianity and a million other entities have struggled with this problem, and the result is a potpourri of answers, none of which can reconcile the problem. You have a soul. It goes off somewhere. You don't know about it. You are a soul. You don't know about it. Today we live in a vast cult called Worship the Body. Medical doctors, school teachers, parents, traffic officers, the whole society unites into this war cry. Care for the body. This stems from the concept that the body is all that one has. That he will have just one body. And that his total devotion is the care of that body. The body is a vegetable. It is not even a sentient vegetable, for it lacks perception in the whole Theta range. Like any vegetable, it grows from seed and has habit patterns which help it survive. And, like any vegetable, one way or another, it gets used by others. Early Theta beings saw meshed bodies acting and being as though they were self-motivated. This was a curiosity. The early Theta being did not know that these meshed bodies depended wholly for their wits upon the guidance of a decayed Theta being. The bodies looked like entities of considerable force and skill. The Theta beingness of them was hidden and unapparent. Thus, even Theta beings have been fooled by meshed bodies. A meshed body, whether it belongs to the race of man or the race of ants, is only an animated vegetable. Given a theta being to guide it, it becomes part of a composite known as It becomes part of a composite such as Homo sapiens. Here we have a theta being decayed into unknowingness, devoted to the care of a messed body. The I of this body, the actual volition of it, all its wits and skills are theta beings derived from the guidance of a theta being. By itself, the body would live, walk around, react, sleep, kill, and direct an existence no better than that of a field mouse or a zombie. Put a theta being over it and it becomes possessed of ethics and morals and direction and goals and the ability to reason. It becomes this strange thing called Homo sapiens, a being above animals and yet an animal. Give this messed body a psychotic theta being, and you get a sort of Frankenstein's monster. Give this messed body a nearly unconscious theta being, and you get a zombie. The body is a carbon-oxygen engine which runs at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The theta being is the engineer running this engine in a Homo sapiens. There is already an entity running this engine, the genetic entity. But there is here only a total devotion to avoiding pain, seeking survival factors of the meanest sort, begetting new messed bodies. Every cell in that body has its own theta. The genetic entity is theta. A theta being is something else entirely. In the first place, the theta being came into being without the need of a messed body, without the need of motors. It is close to a perpetual motion machine in that it can create energy and impulses. It thinks without facsimiles. It can act without experience. It can know simply by being. When we have talked of optimum performance in Dianetics and Scientology, we have talked about the actual top-level capabilities of the theta being, not the capabilities of the messed being. Early work in Dianetics treats of the composite called Homo sapiens and treats that composite for what it is, an identity of several parts which act in greater or lesser coordination. You can go right on treating this composite being as a unit. You can go right on treating him and getting results for which you will be praised. But you must know that you are not treating the actual identity when you treat the messed body. You are furthering a composite, and actually you are subscribing to the international cult called Care of the Body. You can, at your own choice, go on living with and processing this composite known as Homo sapiens and create Homo Novis. You can use Dianetics to make hitherto impossible strides. But be advised that in this choice you are living with paradoxes which no philosopher in all the ages ever reconciled. The injustice of death, the depravity of human beings as in Plato, the penalty of assisting another, the impossibility of having good ARC and survival too, the liability of being kind and merciful, and every unanswerable religious paradox known. You, by persisting in yesterday's reality, are persisting then in the problems which have never been resolved with the factors accepted. You are demanding of a messed theta composite that he be self-determined when every zephyr from a hard universe contains death for him and can turn him into a top and turn him like a top. You are demanding that he be careful when his only salvation is to be carefree. You are saddling him with all the unanswered riddles of an aberrated life in an aberrated world. and you are condemning a preclear to the dwindling spiral, for the Theta being as part of the composite decays fast and soon dies forever in the rigid apathy of mist. Thus Scientology is given to you, in lieu of this data. The only thing which could be given man is the answering salute to the gladiators, they who are about to die. As an auditor, the choice is yours to make. The paradoxes or the answer. When you truly believe and understand what it is he's saying in that reference, then you have a lot of work to do. Because when you believe so deeply that what I just read, at that point that you believe it, you are so fucked. You are so fucked up in your head, it will take you years, and I mean years. Maybe not. I mean, I can imagine Chris Shelton has read that reference before and believed it. But we all come into Scientology a different way. The way that I came into it, I think, just, everyone is unique in the way that they come into it. So my uniqueness was that I owed my life to Scientology. And so to that degree, to that order of magnitude, is the order of magnitude in which I committed myself to that organization, even if it was a short period of time. And had I not attempted suicide in the mission, I may still be there, because I did not want to leave. And I remained a Scientologist in my head until very recently. Next week I'm giving a seminar here locally in town, and I have contacted a occult specialist helping members recover. I feel like that's something that will help me, and I am still doing what I can do, reading about mind control, thought reform, and I was already a pretty charismatic and manipulative person before I got into Scientology, and so I've got a lot of work to do. I'll just put it that way, because at certain times I'm not sure if I'm not manipulating myself. So that's all I had for today. I'm sorry if you didn't, well, I'm going to stop apologizing. I know the first video I did was extremely painful to watch. It was extremely painful for me to do. So I get it. It's not for everybody. You don't have to watch it. But, anyone who has been where I've been probably doesn't care how slow I talk or how uncomfortable I look or how uncomfortable it makes them feel. It's information that could help somebody. So if you don't like it, whatever, turn the video off. I also said earlier in my videos that at some point I will be creating content that's going to be more interesting for you non-Scientologists. So you have that to look forward to. But right now I'm working on things that are helping me, and even my closest family I haven't it's very hard to speak about this to your close friends and family, because something like that I just read to you, like, I couldn't begin to explain to someone close to me like what that actually means. But I know that there are people out here that understand. So that's what I'm doing this for, and it has provided me a large amount of relief. And I'm excited about speaking out in public at the local coffee shop, because there will be some people that have known I was a Scientologist but never really knew what. I never spoke about it. So, and if I did, it was all, sweetness and light, as they say in the church. So, I hope you have a great weekend, and subscribe if you haven't. If this is your first time watching, I've got other videos, check those out, and there will be more in the future. And yeah, thanks for watching. And sorry about the squeaky chair.